Sean's Fine Show. Sean's Fine Show. Digging deep and making dough. From thrift store gold to eBay flips. He teaches fire Tims and killer tips. Buyers, sellers, wheel and deal. Real stories. Keep it real. Stack a bargain. Flip it fast. Sean's Fine Show.
I'm here today with the Rocket City Reseller. He has the Launchpad Reseller podcast. And I'm on the other one. Flip side. But I'm on the other one with you.
Yeah.
And this is going to be fun because I've been a guest on Launchpad. I'm on Flipside with you, but you're kind of on Flipside. You're the moderator and you're the one asking all the questions. On Launchpad, you're the host, so you asking all the questions. So we never really get to talk about like your reselling.
Yeah.
So
the tide
you're
has
always
turned.
the host, but never the guy answering the questions. So
yeah, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right?
Yeah, I guess you're probably the bride, and everyone else is the bridesmaid. And this time,
well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's
you're
what
the
it
one
is,
that gets to get drunk at the wedding reception today and tell stories. So
yeah. Well, I'd love for Flipside to be something more than just moderation at some point. I think it can grow into something really special. So we'll talk about that later. But
I'll tell you, because I'm an ambitious guy, and if I start doing something, I go pedal to the metal. My goal is to be on the two biggest reselling podcasts there is, which is Flipside and this one. So I wanted to be sky's the limit. That's one of the reasons I kind of started this podcast. I've always liked podcasting, and there's you and Tennessee Treasures and Four Seasons Pickers and Cougar's Corner on there, and anytime any of our individual stars rise, it helps that show, and vice versa, because we're all kind of connected to that show. So
that's by design. When we thought of the first concept for Flipside, there are not a lot of roundtable podcasts, or I don't even consider really Flipside to be a podcast so much as a roundtable, a safe place to just talk about reselling and all things. And sometimes that skirts because we're more than resellers when you come down to it. We're not just a sum of reselling. We're a lot of things, right? So there's human nature, all the other stuff that everybody has problems, every other has concerns that affect reselling. So sorry about my dogs.
Oh, my dog's right here too. So she's right here at my leg. So when we came down here, I was like, you want to go podcasting? And so we came down here to my little makeshift podcast studio to do this. So
I have a beagle and a lab, and they can get a little loud sometimes. So if you guys hear that, I apologize.
So this podcast is mainly about reselling. So I always just like to start from the beginning. I know what you resell and what you're currently doing, but I don't actually know your reselling origin story. So when'd you start? Why'd you start? How'd you get into it? Let's hear that.
I'm going to give you a special behind the scenes version of my story, which goes further than when we started reselling. This goes all the way back to Little Bob. All right. Like when I was like 8 years old. Yeah. So we're going to go way, way back. So now I've never told these stories. So when I first started, we were poor, like really poor. So a lot of thrift stores, a lot of stuff like that. And so that is where I kind of found the interest in thrift stores because it was out of necessity. So that was kind of where I kind of broke my teeth in thrift stores, doing that with my mom. We would look through the records and stuff like that. So I have a lot of memories of just going through 45s with my mom, the old school, like classics, Motown, stuff like that. Just looking through records and doing that type of thing. So we had a lot of that growing up. And then my grandmother would do booths in different crafts fairs and things of that nature. So we were always tagging along on that. She did all that stuff for charity. She actually did it for Make-A-Wish. So a lot of that time and energy that was spent, money, was courtesy of her. And then she would just take that knowledge and gift that she had and just, exponentially grow the money for that. So all of that was donated. So we had that growing up as well. So just being around, tables, yard sales, always a family yard sale going on, a way to try to make extra money. So there was a lot of that in the early ages. So that's my beginning origin story. So, and then fast forward to current 2022 is when we first started officially online reselling. And we actually started that because at the time we were foster parents, and we are still licensed, although our license is paused right now because our youngest is off to college. We'll get to that in a second. But so there's not a lot of money that the state gives you for foster care. So if a child wants to do an extracurricular activity outside of, the normal state funded stuff, it's up to the foster parent or other means to try to find a grant or something like that to try to get, when have you ever known a child to want to do just one sport, right? And how do you say no? Just because they're not your child, right, doesn't mean you treat them any differently, right?
Yes.
So that's what we started reselling to try to help with that. Matter of fact, I think it was after we financed one of our cars so one of our boys could go to karate. I was like, we need to find a side hustle or something to try to help with this, as there's only so much we can do now to try to, make the difference in that way. So we basically did that. And yeah, so that's kind of how we did it. We started 2022 of October, and it just was gangbusters. I remember my first sale, matter of fact. So
yeah. What was it?
Yeah. So yeah, we started on Mercari. So Mercari back then, for everybody that didn't know, Mercari was actually good.
Yeah, was it worth a damn?
I know we always joke around. Mercari gets a bad rap right now because there's a lot of things that they did probably not correct over time. They got greedy with a lot of things. So they changed their shipping, they changed their seller fees regardless. But at the time, Mercari was absolute fire. And the toy that I sold, because we sell just plush for those that don't know. So I sold a Clarabelle. I don't know if you know who Clarabelle is from the old Steamboat Willie days. So Clarabelle, she was probably about 24 to 36 inches, somewhere in there. And super rare. Couldn't find anything really on the research side of things. And I researched this thing. It was like one of my first things I've ever researched. A good week researching, trying to find sold comps. So just threw a number on it, 142, 147, something like that. And I remember the day it sold. It didn't take long. And I heard that, cha-ching, and now you're hooked, right? So super excited. All of a sudden, my Mercari account gets frozen. They're like, no, sir. So they probably thought I was a scammer. So I had to verify my account, send in my ID, do all this hoops and jumps and all this other stuff, trying to prove that I was, a legit reseller. So it was from that point on, it was just the wheels fell off. So
what made you realize, since 2022 is kind of late, like it's kind of recent, and in some people's stories, what made you realize that online reselling was even an option?
Yeah. So
was there content you saw, or were you just already like a shopper on those kind of websites, and you're like, what, I can put stuff on there as well? Or how'd that happen?
Yeah, definitely can add some context there. So during COVID, I think a lot of people were just doom scrolling a lot because of just sheer boredom. I came across a lot of YouTube videos, and I remember at the time we were looking for side hustles. So a lot of Google searching for, what can we do to make extra money for, foster care and doing all this stuff. Right. So I came across a Gary Vee video, and he's walking with one of his buddies down the street, and he got this like teddy bear or something in his hands. He's like, yeah, look at this. And he's like comping it right there in the street as he's walking. He's like, look at this. I paid 50 cents for this. We're going to sell it for 50. I was like, this guy is crazy. There's no way that someone's going to pay, $50 for a used teddy bear. And the other day we sold one for 200. So
yeah.
It's just kind of funny how you just stumble across these things, and you're just like, and it's always the same with resellers. I've heard this story so many times in interviews where they're just like, oh, I thought this guy was so full of beans. And then all of a sudden you try it and you're just like, it's amazing the things that you can find that still have value. So it's
now,
crazy.
Did you and your wife already have an interest in plush going into reselling? Like, did she already have a knowledge, or you have a knowledge, or a collector? Or did you just like, Gary Vee sold a stuffed animal, I'm doing stuffed animals only?
Yeah, so it was a slope at that point. It was just I started seeing people like Rebel the Reseller. I don't know if you're familiar with Rebel and Robert out there in East Tennessee.
I'm not.
Yeah, so she's been doing it for 25 years. She's been selling plush and toys. and I stumbled across her content. I was like, surely we can do that. So that was one thing. And then the other part of that, the other side of that coin is my wife had a childhood that was very much um, different than mine, we'll just say. And she had a lot of the toys from the 80s and 90s that are really sought after today. So she was able to she has a really great eye for some of the stuff like that's behind us here. Like she
Yeah.
has this is her personal collection, by the way, and a little bit of mine in there too. I love Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera. So, but yeah, so she had that growing up, and she just has a natural ability just to spot quality and nostalgia. And from there, it was just a slam dunk. It really was. And we've grown a lot over the course of these past couple of years. And we just sell. When I would tell to people that we just sell plush, they're just like, "You got to be kidding me!" Because I can't give them away in my store, type of thing. And I'll tell them how much. And then people see our videos, right? And they're like, "Wow, it's just crazy."
Your wife and my wife and then me and you, like I grew up poor. I told you that when I was on your podcast, and we grew up
Yeah.
garage selling, and most of the stuff around our house, our clothes are from yard sales. And then my wife, she didn't grow up rich, but she got to go on family vacations, like rich
Mhm.
compared to how I grew up. Like, so I
Yeah,
give her a
sure.
hard time all the time of how she got to go to Disney World on her birthday once, and I'm like, the farthest I went as a child is from Indiana
Yeah.
to Tennessee once. Like,
Yeah.
so when I was
Yeah.
growing up, so
Yeah.
we live those different lifestyles as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So
There's a lot of parallels in reselling. I think a lot of people that have that fight and that dog fight in them
mhm,
probably grew up similar to the way you and I grew up, Sean. And maybe that's a little bit of why we're so successful. I don't know.
yeah, uh, it makes you realize that it's not like going to a normal 9 to 5 job. I could go to a normal 9 to 5 job, and it don't matter how hard I work for those 40 hours and bust butt, my paycheck's going to be the same every single week. And doing
Mhm.
this, the harder I work, the bigger my payday is. And
Yeah.
when you're hungry, you can take advantage of that if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. I always say this saying, hungry dogs run faster. And it's the truth, right? If you're absolutely you're heck bent on determined to get what that goal is, you're gonna get it. eBay is the most like substantial platform. You'll get what you put into it. So you'll get out of it what you put into it. So I'm a firm believer in doing that. And I'm not a full-time
No,
reseller.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah. So if you're ready to talk about it, we could talk about what I'm doing full time, but I'm definitely
No,
not doing this.
for the you guys that don't know, Bob works full time. His wife is the full time reseller, but he helps his wife
I do.
heavily in the business because he loves reselling. And is there a
Everything
part of
about it.
you that wishes, since you love it so much, that you were a full time seller yourself?
Every day I'm jealous. Every day, even though I watch her work herself to the
Mhm.
exhaustion every day. So for how successful we are, all credit goes to her, right? In regards to that type of workflow. Obviously, I can't put those type of hours in. So, but I would say that, I am a little bit jealous of that. The flexibility more so. It's not, freedom is a funny thing. There's ultimately someone to answer to. So freedom's not necessarily it. I think it's more so the flexibility of being able to work when you need to
Yes.
work. I think that's what's really attractive for me. So, and I find value in flexibility right now.
Yeah, for a lot of people who aren't full time resellers, they think that we can just take off every day that we want.
No.
But it's the flexibility. Like Thursday night, my wife and I went to the state fair because I'm a Kiss fan, and Gene Simmons' solo band was at our local state fair. So
Heck yeah.
w- we wanted to go to the state. I wanted. My wife thinks it's a good sport. She went with me. I wanted to go to the concert,
Yeah.
but I knew like we needed to get to the state fair and drive there a little early and find parking. And obviously, we're going to take a lap around the fair and eat some fair food before the show. So I couldn't work to my normal time, but I knew that I needed Thursday afternoon into the evening off. So all week. I knew that. So I drafted 2 or 3 items every single day leading up there. So I had my listing goal for Thursday drafted. So Thursday morning, I just got up decently early, went in and knocked all my shipping out. And then I was home at a decent time. My listings were preloaded, so I was able to just work harder the days before and go in a little early so I could go to that concert. If I worked a 9 to 5 job, they don't care that I want to go to that Gene Simmons
Yeah.
concert. I'm working till 5, and there's a good chance I'm not going to a Gene Simmons concert on a Thursday night during the week because I work at 9 to 5. So
Yeah.
I get
Not
the flexibility. So
Yeah, not having to beg for time off right now
mhm,
for a lot of families out there, that's huge. That's
mhm,
huge. That's probably the crux of just about every family dynamic out there right now.
mhm,
Mom and dad are both working full time, right? So someone has to take off time. Who has the most flexible job? Who's not going to be, written up for taking time off? Reselling can ease the pain in that. Now, am I saying that everybody should be a reseller? No, I'm not saying that. But it is
no.
an option for a side hustle if you're looking for one that has a little bit of flexibility and can be quite lucrative if you have an eye for it and you're watching and learning from trusted people like Sean and some of the other people that we were talking about earlier. Find someone that you can trust. Watch some YouTube videos. Do a thing.
Mhm,
What have you tried? Have you tried nothing and you're all out of ideas, or are you trying something different? So
mhm.
it's really important to get yourself in front of somebody that knows what they're doing if you want to try it and break your teeth and resell.
That's
So
what I try to tell people because it irks me because I grew up poor. So I know what it's like to be poor. And even in my early 20, most of my 20s, I was a little bit of a screw up in my 20s.
I know that feeling.
So like, I was even broke into my mid 20s. So I know what it's like to choose between like going out with your friends one night or paying your cell phone bill because it's going to get shut off. So when you hear
Yeah.
people's sob story in 2026, I'm like, there's so many options. And
Oh,
even if I'm not your cup of tea, or if someone like Bob's not your cup of tea,
yeah.
there's somebody out there that you can relate to and follow and learn how to do this. And
Yeah,
so,
and I love it because we're starting to see a lot more younger people get into reselling. They call them bin bros or,
mhm,
whatever. Give them a hard time about what they sell and stuff like that. But it's nice to see younger people getting into like fashion and some other stuff, maybe hard goods,
mhm,
toys, whatever the case may be, and finding a passion for the idea of reselling and using that as an income to make the difference for their whatever they got going on, in their phase of life. So it's nice seeing those people. And we're going to have a few younger folks on the podcast, Launchpad Reseller Podcast, coming up soon. So we're trying to get some younger folks in there so we can kind of see the other side of that dynamic, the under 30 crowd, maybe.
mhm.
So,
So let's go back to you're working full time and then you're reselling part time. Your wife works full time. You're a little jealous and you want to go full time. Is that something that's in
yeah.
the picture for you at all? Are you working towards that goal? Or are you just
Well,
kind of content doing what you guys got going on now?
yeah. So let's rewind a bit. Just because I missed an important part of the story. During COVID, my wife lost her job after 17 years working at Target. So she came home an absolute puddle, as you can imagine. And I was just like, it's going to be okay. Maybe it's time to, maybe go back to school, maybe do that. So she went back and she got her bachelor's degree in human services. And again, it's kind of aligned to our foster parent goals at the time. And that's when we started watching those videos and stuff. We started reselling to, kind of offset some costs. And yeah, so I just wanted to kind of clarify how she became a full-time reseller because that was no, and that has helped her. She worked retail for 17 years. So she's been through just about every cycle of sales that you can think of and over that time, even to this day, things like planogram and setting up a booth locally has helped her tremendously in her
Mm-hmm.
reselling journey. So there's so many things that she's learned over the course of that time that's now benefiting her as a reseller. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that really quick before we talk about what I do for work.
Mm-hmm.
So for working purposes, I'm a degreed software engineer. So I went back about 4 or 5 years ago now, and got my software engineering degree. I had a computer programming degree in 2000, so I've always been in tech in some fashion. And so I went right before COVID. I think I went back to school. So during COVID, when everybody was panicking or freaking out, I was working two full-time jobs and going to school full time. So I maybe slept 3 hours a day for like
I bet.
2.5 years. So I did that, and then it was. I'd tell you that you'll get real close to your faith, really, really quickly, and your belief in God for sure. So it's a God thing. I can't say how important that time of my life was. I learned a lot about myself and my capability and my willingness and my tenacity to get something done. So, and I think that was testament to how I grew up. I realized really young that there was no one to come save me. Right. And when you realize that, that's a powerful thing and a scary thing all wrapped in one. So you are your own superhero, and I know it sounds cheesy, but you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You really can do that. And I think a lot of successful people have that tenacity, that baked in grit. So you have to get gritty. So that's how I became a software engineer degreed. And then at the time I worked for companies like NASA, Boeing, stuff like that. I'm a consultant now I do data science and data architecture. So, and that has helped with reselling because I can predict a lot of times trend in sales and what's trending and specifically what we're into, plush and toys. So, and then it does help. Like I have a number that I have fixed in my head that I calculated for what you're going to reach by the end of the year. Cause I know you're chasing 500,000. We've talked offline about that number. I'm going to put that in an envelope and I'm going to see how close I come to the actual number. So I've done a little bit of number crunching, and I think I have a number in mind.
I'm curious to, we'll do that on your show. We'll have you put it in an envelope, and then at the end of the year, you can pull the envelope out and we'll do that episode.
I think we'll do it on flip side. Maybe we'll do it on flip side.
That's
for
that's
sure.
what I meant. Flip side.
Yeah, flip side. We'll do that on there, and we'll see. And if I'm close within 5%, I don't know what the rules should be, but I think other than bragging rights, maybe. And then if I'm way off, you'll be like, this guy's bullshit.
To be honest, I kind of did where I was at like this time last year versus where I'm at now. And then I looked at what I did in Q4 and looked at it percentage wise on how much I did of my sales in Q4 last year. And then if I do the same percentage over what I did this year, and I think it's going to be closer to like 460, 470 if that's it, unless Q4 really is.
I'm hopeful for Q4 because sales for us, luckily we have Whatnot, so we can talk about that too. But
we're definitely talking about that.
Yeah, our static sales right now have been kind of okay. Like we're year over year good, but I was expecting to be a little bit better than we are currently. So I think that has a lot to do with a lot of things, like economy's not the greatest in the world, and what we sell is more so a want, not a need. So it's always wants and needs. It's hard for reselling. So what I'm going to advise everybody, find a need and sell that.
That's what I want to talk about next. So I jokingly call you the plush king because you and your wife sell plush.
You know what's funny about that, Sean? Before I was a Rocket City reseller, I was the plush king of Alabama.
So it would have fit. When you and your wife go sourcing, and I've seen your videos on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram. Most of the time you're in thrift stores and bins like Goodwill outlets and stuff like that. So say you're in the Goodwill outlet and you're digging through the bins and you're getting all the plush. And then your wife also likes other toys because I know in her booth she puts like little people and some of the smaller stuff because an individual little people, they're only worth a few bucks. So you might not list those on eBay. So they're better for your booth. And I'm sure that's kind of your strategy with those.
Right.
So you're in the Goodwill bins and you're digging through and you're getting the plush and the little people, and then you see an Olympus camera that's like a $180 camera. Do you grab it?
Yes, matter of fact, I grabbed a camera probably 2 years ago from the Goodwill Outlet bins, and I just recently gave it to my son's girlfriend, who is a
Mm-hmm.
like a photographer. She does it more
Mm-hmm.
so as a hobby now. So I found this camera, and I think it was either a Canon or maybe it was something else.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really
One of
really
the big
nice
names, yeah.
camera. Yeah, it
Maybe a
was the one with
camera is
the
not the best example because you gave it as a
no,
gift.
but it's kind of relevant because we did find that and I did pick it
Yeah.
because it was vintage, first of all. It had the old time vintage straps, the leather case, the lenses, it had everything. I was like, how the heck did this make it to the Goodwill Outlet bins? Like, I didn't, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how
It's
this is because it
crazy.
was a $600 camera, turns out. So,
Okay, say you find so you did, I'm trying to find an example of something you'd list because you gave that as a way as a gift. Say you
yeah.
found like another like $200 or $300 item, you're probably grabbing it because you're at the bins. But
Mhm.
do you list it on your account since on your eBay page or your other, it's all plush, 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 plush? Are you one of those guys that's like, I'm not listing anything that's not a toy, or will you list that $300 camera? Say your daughter-in-law didn't want the camera, so would you
Right.
list that camera on eBay?
You know what's funny about it? I had it for almost 3 years and never listed it.
Yeah.
So that
So,
answers your question, right? So I
so,
see the value in things like that. And at the time, I will pick it for the sheer sake of possibly even giving it away to someone
mm,
that could potentially
yeah.
make the money. Cause that's how my wife and I are. If we find something that someone is interested in or sells that's valuable. Right now I have a bracelet that's from Hope and Stetson. It's a very higher brand like
Mhm.
Stetson. It's like a turquoise and silver bracelet worth probably $400 or $500 that's just sitting in a drawer somewhere.
So
So
you don't want anything besides toys on your account. Is that more your strategy?
I think so because not that I'm saying that I think there are times where I believe that the algorithm will push you if you are specific. It's kind of like
Mhm.
content and content creation. If you have a certain person that's looking through your store, you're more likely to get a sale or you're more likely to get a view. If, like, say, if I do, and this is why we've taken a little bit of time to monetize across, even though we did it quickly, but like having that differentiation between like I'm just toys, I'm just this. Now that's all bullshit because we see, excuse my language, because we see what you're doing. You're an everything
Yeah.
reseller, right? And you're
Hmm.
selling, a drill bit one day, and you're selling maybe a purse the next day. So
Yeah.
maybe
Saw the
some of
purse
what I'm
yesterday,
saying,
actually.
yeah. So maybe what I'm saying is not necessarily true, but
Mhm.
what it is, I think mostly for us is ease of which we have our model broken down to.
No,
Everything
I
goes
that
into a poly mailer. There's systems and processes in place that makes this like a slam dunk when it comes to photographing, desire to do a thing, purpose. Like desire, my wife has zero desire to take a picture of a camera or a Duke base football, like that little football you
Mhm.
sold at
You
Duke
know,
for
for $100 the
$100.
other day. Yeah.
No, if I saw that at the bins, I would still grab it, but likely it
Yeah.
would sit on my shelf somewhere collecting dust until I found someone like Sean to be like, hey man, have this football. I got it from the
Mhm.
bins for like $2. I know you could make $100 from it.
No,
So
I'm I see a lot of benefits to the niche. Like, I see your system where everything goes in a poly mailer, everything fits in your bin system. I have aisles and aisles and aisles of random shaped objects on shelves. I'm sure you've seen videos of inside my shop, so the disaster
oh
it
yeah, I love
is.
it. That's how I found you, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's the first video I watched of your shop. And I was like, this guy, he knows.
He's a psychopath.
So
Uh,
I love it. My
and
people.
then I see like Cougar's Corner, who if you're watching this and you don't know, the
Yeah.
$500,000 plus. I think it's going to be way
Oh no.
plus.
Oh yeah.
Uh, they only sell clothes, but they got a system where everything fits in their photo station. Everything gets bagged. They got their nice, neat rows. When they ship, everything's in a plastic bag already. All they got to do is they could probably do their shipping for the day, even though they sell 60 items a day. I could probably knock it out in less than an hour because everything just goes on a poly mailer and a label slapped on it. So I can see the benefits of a niche for simplicity of the smoothest of running your business. But it's probably also a lot harder on you guys. Probably not as hard on them because when you go into a thrift store, 75% of all thrift stores are closed anyways. But
yeah, makes it for us. It's a double-edged sword. Like most, like you said, most thrift stores are just, bare shares closed, which make, and even then here in Alabama, there's a lot of George and, that type of clothing. There's not really your higher end stuff, at least in our area in North Alabama.
At least you have a big college in the area with the Alabama stuff probably would sell online if you find enough Alabama shirts and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, that's what's great about our son. He just started at Tuscaloosa, University of Alabama. So my wife is now currently going there quite a bit. Just, move him in, and then we're going down his birthday weekend to grab him, stuff like that. So she'll hit a thrift store or two on the way there and back, to make it a business trip. And, yeah, so, I mean, there are times where I'll walk in and see a Peter Millar, Alabama shirt, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, yeah. I took a photo of it and I sent it to Gary and Amy over there at Cougar's Corner, and I was like, "Hey, look at this!" And they're just like, "Yeah, the price is a little high though." And they're like, and I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right." So I always like reach out, I phone a friend when it's outside the niche. So yeah.
But it's probably harder for you to source enough quality inventory when you're stuck in a niche as well. When me, if I go to a yard sale or thrift store, flea market, auction, if it's shippable, it's on my radar. Like, so there's benefits of the behind the scenes running, the smoothness of the operation, the day to day, but the sourcing.
Yeah, the sourcing. So let's talk about it really quick, how we do that, because it's not as hard as you think, believe it or not. So we use the bins model. So for those that don't know what the bins are, their Goodwill outlet has, Goodwill stores have retail stores. Anything that doesn't get sold in that retail space, they normally get taken to a Goodwill outlet. And then we call them the bins because there's blue bins that kind of roll around, and everyone's Goodwill outlet looks a little bit different. Sean's has a track that kind of runs down the center of it. Ours isn't like that. So we travel to Nashville, which is about an hour and a half from us, just about probably twice a month to source. And we do a big source that day. We normally come out, I don't know if you've seen the blue moving bags that we have in some of our content. We fill those things.
I remember a picture of you guys in St. Louis. I don't know if you were in a hotel or whatever, and you had like a mountain in like a hotel room or something. I think it was. I don't remember exactly what it was in.
Yeah. Yeah, we so when we source that way, when we do those thriftathons where we go with like 5 different states and things like that, I think that's what you might be referring to. We are being specific about first of all, what we're looking for, because we're far away from home. We want to make the most of our time and effort. So we're looking for specific things on those particular trips. But when we're going to Nashville, we're also sourcing for Whatnot. For Whatnot, it takes a lot of inventory to sustain Whatnot, and then the bins model works great because it's $1.89 a pound, right? Plush is normally 9 times out of 10 not very heavy. There are times where the vintage stuff can cost you a little bit, but it sells for more, right? So we use that strategy: buy subterranean, sell low, right? The Dollar General McDonald's model is what we kind of base that off of. And my wife hates when I use that analogy, but it's true. We buy low. You make your money at the buy. Everybody that has been reselling for a while kind of understands that, and that's kind of what we do. And then we determine what goes to Whatnot and what may go to eBay or other static platforms where we can make a little bit more. So
let's talk about that. So you do live Whatnot shows. So from what I gather, it sounds like you're taking the higher dollar plush, and I'm sure you have a dollar mind in mind, and you can share here in a minute, of anything over this amount goes to eBay, everything underneath this amount goes to Whatnot. Is that kind of the strategy?
Initially it was, and I think what we're starting to realize is people are looking for quality there as well. So it's a really kind of a thin line between what do I bring and what do I not bring. A lot of times what we do is we try to bring what's trending to whatnot, and at the cost of sometimes eBay. So let's say if it's a jelly cat, very rarely, and you'll see a video coming out in a few days of a jelly cat my wife found. We could talk about it now, but that jelly cat sold for $405 on eBay. So it's a black onyx dragon. But there are times where we do bring plush of that quality to whatnot. My wife brought a cat called El Gato. It was a Douglas cat, retired rare. At the time, we did not know that it was rare and retired, but we had a lot of activity on it. She preloaded it, and we started getting preloaded bids on it, and it was starting to go a little bit crazy. People were like bidding 60, 100, 150. We're like, what is going on with this thing? And then her good friend, Courtney, Mama Cat Thrifter on Whatnot, if you're not following her, she was just like, yeah, she did a little bit of extra research, went into eBay research tool and was like, yeah, there's sold comps for this thing for $400. And we are just like, holy cow. So, that was one of those times, it's just a good example of the power of social media sales. That auction, when it went live, it was at, I think, 300 and then went to, I think, 405 or no, 450 maybe.
So you got right at the eBay price on Whatnot, which is,
we actually,
my understanding as a non-Whatnot, that's kind of rare. You're usually a little under eBay because people are on Whatnot hoping to get a better deal than just, if they want to pay full price, I'll just go click buy now on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's like a jumped up yard sale is what kind of Whatnot is specifically meant for. And plush, depending on what the person's looking for, and we try to keep trendy with plush, so that way all you need is two people wanting the same item in Whatnot. And then all of a sudden a $3 sale turns into a $30 sale, which is really great about auction. But the time it takes to build a community of people to get like-minded people into the same room that want the same thing does take time. So Whatnot is one of those things. I have 8,100 sold between my wife and I. We're a team at the time. She was not Fiona's Finds yet on Whatnot. We managed to get 8,000 sales. So we spent almost 2 years building a community there. And she was able to get 1,000 followers in 3 months, where it took me a year. So she did. And at 1,000, for those that don't know, you can unlock things like instant payout. So whenever you get a sale and you print a shipping label, you automatically get paid. You no longer have to wait for delivery of the item to receive payment, which can help with cash flow when you're a new reseller. So those are just some of the things. Like, we can go on and on about Whatnot. It's an animal to itself.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Whatnot, and I'm kind of got me a Whatnot pile started. I'm thinking about diving in and doing the occasional live show, because my favorite way to source is live auctions. And I don't know how familiar you are with going to live auctions. A lot of times the auctioneer's not just going to let you bid on just one item, unless it's something that the auctioneer already knows is valuable. But a lot of times they get so much junk, they'll be like throwing stuff in a tote and be like, this whole tote. Well, sometimes there's one thing on the tote that's like a $50 item or plus that I want for eBay, but I got the rest of the stuff, and some of it's trash, but some of it's like, it's not good enough. Like, for someone like me who has an inventory for a year, if I wanted to quit sourcing, it's not worth me listing a $12 item on eBay, because for me to take the time to list that $12 item, I got $50 items I can list over here. So, but it's not trash. But I'm also,
there's value, right? So that's what's important. So it's time to value.
I can't make 500 totes of $12 items just in case I run out of stuff. So I thought about starting to do a live show once a week or every other week to liquidate that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it can be a nice thing what I like the idea about it is, say you're having a slow eBay week because you're an eBay seller or a static seller. You can be like, you know what? I'm $1,200 under my normal week pace. let's hop on Whatnot and run a show of 200 items and close that gap for what you used to make in a week. And so I love the idea of using it as a tool to get rid of your lower dollar stuff. Plus, use it to balance out the roller coaster of eBay, because anyone that sells on eBay knows it isn't like I average a little over $1,000 a day, but it isn't like I'm thousand. I'll have 1,700, 400, 1,300, 600, and it's just a way you could even your revenue out.
Yeah, and it really does help with that. And can't say enough about my wife just locking in and keeping Whatnot alive for the business. She's grown a hell of a following through Fiona's Finds for specifically Fisher Price Little People. She went on the other day for 3 hours and just absolutely crushed it. She made her like sales goals in 3 hours that would have took a platform maybe 2 weeks to do. She did in 3 hours
longer.
now. Yeah,
Like,
maybe longer, depending, because like right now, July, August, even though we are crushing like comparatively to last year, it's still slower than what we were hoping it to be. So it's nice having Whatnot as that cash flow engine to kind of keep things moving.
Yeah.
Specifically, if you have extra costs that are unseen, a lot of times with, home ownership and sending kids off to college, and there's all these hidden costs throughout, and Whatnot can really help with that.
Or personally, for my eBay business, I lease a building to run it out of. And I don't talk about it a lot, but my lease on my building is $1,666 a month.
You
Plus
can easily
my
make that on
utilities.
Whatnot. Yeah.
Plus my utilities.
Yeah.
Because I can't use my home internet there, so I got to pay for internet. I can't use my home lights. I pay for like gas, electric, all that stuff you have to pay for your house. I got to pay for it at a shop too, because it's not at my house. So it would be great to like, oh, it's the 26th of the month. Let's run a monthly Whatnot show and knock out all my rent and utility for my building with all my junk pile that I'm not going to ever list on eBay. So I love the idea of the tool. There's only so many hours of the day.
Yeah, I mean, live auction is great, and it can be very lucrative, but it does come at a cost too. My wife will spend tomorrow likely, and she's probably already started, if I know her well, she's probably already started maybe packaging some of that, because having a huge show like that for those amount of hours, it comes at a cost. Whatnot's very intentional. You got to get that stuff out. 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is. If you sell on a Friday, obviously they give you the Monday, but that type of thing.
How many items did she sell in that show?
I think maybe 200.
So
somewhere in there.
If there wasn't a lot of double ups of people buying multiple items, that's 200 going out on top of whatever she sells. Because I know she uses Nifty, which the same cross-listing platform I use.
Right.
So that's on top of whatever she sold on eBay, Poshmark, Depop, Etsy, Mercari. I'm sure she's on all of them.
You're at this point. We are on all of them. So So that's a good point, because when she was having that live show the other day, I was, I consider myself logistics. So I do a lot of the pulling of the items when they sell for her. That her time's more valuable than that. I could do that part. So she's better at photographing and stuff like that. So she's real quick with that. So
I've seen the pictures of her online. She just sits in the zone and knocks out like 1,000 pictures in a day.
She's an absolute terror when it comes to like photographing and listing. She can, it's quite literally a feat. Like, it's a special talent for sure, which makes us successful. But yeah, so I take over the bear share of like pulling stuff, and that's when I do a lot of my content. I'll pull the item and I'll talk about, how long it sold, for how much, if there's like an interesting story or what I'm seeing in trends and toys. This item, I've sold 3 of them this week. It's trending right now, like over Christmas. I think it was like 40 or 60% of all searches were for beanie items. So it didn't matter if it had the word beanie in it. People were actively searching for that. So things like that, I'll go ahead and, so it's not just like a what sold or a bolo video. It's also talking about what's trending in that particular niche. So if you're into that type of content.
That's what I love about reseller content. There are so many things that we just do in an average day that you can turn into content. You
Oh,
can
God, yeah.
make anything from your sourcing videos. You can make picking videos, like you make a lot of them and kind of tell the story about
Hmm.
it. You can make a what sold video. You can make
Yep.
how-to videos. You can make the packaging videos because a lot of people like to see how stuff's packaged. There's so many different things that you can make content
Totally.
on. And you can actually, like, I can watch your packing videos and be like, oh, dang, Bob sold that plush for $50. It goes in my Rolodex, even though I'm not
Yeah.
a plush seller, but being an everything seller, I've sold plush before. Like, there's
Yeah.
not much that I haven't sold, but that's why one of the biggest pet peeves is these big Facebook accounts who just go on Reddit or whatever forum and steal thrift store pictures. And
Oh, it's awful.
they specifically don't say, hey, this is mine. This is what I found. They just say, oh, I can't believe this thing was in a thrift store. And I'm like, you resell for a living. There's 50 things you can do a day that you can make content. Why are
Yeah.
you getting on Reddit and stealing thrift store pictures? And
Yeah.
I've had some, you know, like I've made friends with you through reselling content creation, and there's
Mm.
probably a dozen other people I've made friends with through content creation, and I've never caught them stealing mine specifically, but I've caught them stealing friends I've made online, and it enrages me. And I'm the kind of guy I get right in their comments and be like, "Hey, you stole this from such and such." Like,
Yeah.
if you're a real reseller, there's plenty of stuff to make your own content about. Like, why do you got to steal other people's stuff? There's 50 things a day you do that could be turned into content. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of that. People like cut and paste, do a lot of
yeah,
like content theft. I'll
yeah,
tell you what, the two like what you're seeing right now and how I've monetized our social media, which was like a tertiary. It was mostly to grow our business, and by
for
proxy, we kind of monetized it by accident. Well, maybe not by accident. Maybe it was a little bit more intentional than that, but that's only January and
you can be honest,
February.
Bob. If
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
gonna put the time in there, we want to make our few bucks,
I don't want to be an ogre about it, but like what you're seeing is January, February, Sean. That's not even like March, April, May, June, July, and August.
Yeah,
Like all the content that I have banked, that all you're right now, 2 months and 10 days is what it took for
yeah.
Facebook, right? To monetize. And then YouTube, it took us 8 months to hit
Hmm.
the baby monetization. And now we're just, so if you're listening to this and you want to watch some content for reseller, feel free to watch some of that long form. We could use the
And
watch hours.
I've seen your content. It's all
Mhm.
you. You
So
work a
I mean,
you work a full-time job, and
correct.
you're a part-time reseller who
Sometimes 50 or 60 hours on my
you
full-time job.
and then you help your wife significantly. You're probably putting close, I'm going to guess 20, 30 hours a week helping your wife in some weeks,
Yeah.
especially if you count sourcing,
Yep.
and you still manage to make your own content. So those
Correct.
guys who steal everyone else's, they never, they're clever about it. They don't say, hey, I saw this at the thrift store today, or hey,
Mhm.
this is me standing in the line in the bins where everyone's water bottles are lined up.
Yeah.
They just post it and make you just assume it's them. And I'm like, there's full guys working full time making their own content. Make your own dang content. You're a
Yeah.
full time reseller. There's 50 opportunities a day. If I have nothing to talk about or show, make a packaging video because I know I'm going to do some shipping. Like there's always something you can
There
show.
is
Like
always something. I mean,
yes,
what's that guy's name? Watch Me Flip. He's the king of the talking head videos where he'll just go on there and tell you all the quiet parts that no one talks about reselling. Like that's his main page. He'll just tell you like, "Hey, listen, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
yeah,
This is the reality of reselling." And he'll just go about 3 minutes deep into what it actually means to resell, and that's his content. And people
hmm,
love it. It's growing like crazy. So
yeah.
you can
I'm
talk
not
about
familiar with him,
anything.
but I'll check him out because I appreciate anybody taking the time to
Yeah.
make their own stuff. There's so many giant accounts out there, and
Oh, God, yeah.
I've seen
And
them.
there's a lot of big name like YouTube resellers, and I don't know if they're necessarily resellers or YouTube sellers or whatever. No shade or anything, but you get to a certain point, how do you do everything? right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that I don't, I want to grow and I want to expand and I want to, do YouTube and podcasting. That's where my heart is. But at the end of the day, we are resellers. I
Mm-hmm.
never try to lose focus on that. And what we've tried to build through social media is more so a community of practice, like where we can be a retailer, like a reseller's reseller, and have that conversation. So that's what our content is on social media. When we rise together type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It may sound cheesy or corny to people or disingenuous,
No,
but
it's not. I have the same motto. I'm
yeah,
sure I've expressed that.
yeah,
I I've even in not just content creation, but like even in reselling, I share a lot of information. And people
oh
are like,
god, yeah.
"Well, are you showing people how to take apart vacuum cleaners and stuff and make the money?" That's what I do, and I'm like, I
There's
do
so
it
much
too.
space. There's so
Yeah.
much room. I'll give you a good example of that. Rebel the Reseller, I mentioned it earlier. We have the same exact business model, and we're both six-figure resellers for
Mm-hmm.
plush and toys. They're probably maybe even bigger than that. They've been doing it for forever, right? So it just goes to show you that, we started after,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it too. And I encourage you, if you want to try it, do it. There's room. So that when it comes to that type of thing, I think you're meant to get what you get and don't get upset type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you're a genuinely good person and put good vibes out there, I think good things will happen. You know, Typically that's kind of like the general rule of thumb when it comes to reselling. And I love promoting other resellers and watching them succeed genuinely.
So I wanted to touch on that. We've talked about your podcast already, and it isn't like in your podcast you're chasing the big, giant YouTube names as your guest. You've had
Mhm.
big sellers on there, and
We've had a
you've
few
had,
big ones. Yeah.
yeah, you've had big ones on there, of course,
Oh yeah.
but you've also had smaller people on there too that you are trying to,
Yeah.
and you don't gain much by having a person with a small following on there because it isn't like they're pulling a big following into your podcast to watch. You're
Yeah.
legit helping that smaller content creator get views that they wouldn't have gotten. It's like,
Yeah.
and you're still willing to have them on. Like, you've
Yeah.
helped.
So Launchpad,
You.
when we initially came up with Launchpad Reseller Podcast, Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, by the way, if you want
Mhm.
to tune in. So when we came up with that, it was meant to be a many thing, like again, a community of practice where we could have just about anybody, whether you've been, and I'm getting my spiel, right? Whether you've been selling for 20 minutes or 20 years, I truly mean that. And I think
Mhm.
it shows in the content, right? Like you just mentioned, we're going to have all kinds of resellers, coming up in August. We have Sean sells stuff, super new to content creation, kind of new to reselling. He's a young man that's out there and making a way for himself. We're going to have him on there. He's just starting out. That's just one example of that. Pause to Flip, Lisa, the flipping puppy mom. She's coming on in August, or sorry, September rather. So we're gonna have a bunch of people coming on that may be new to content, maybe they're not new to reselling, but we're going to come in and we're going to showcase them and we're going to try to grow them too, because I'm a firm believer that when you do that type of thing, good things happen.
So admire you're planning on your podcast because, like, who's going to be on your podcast like 2 months from now. I'm real bad about it's Thursday and I got an episode that's due on Monday. I probably should send some messages to get somebody up.
Yeah, well,
So,
we try to do flip side bi-weekly, right?
yes.
But the Launchpad Reseller Podcast, we've
Mhm.
had so many resellers on this past year. It's been about 8 months, and we do struggle finding people that want to be on that podcast. So if you're a reseller and you want to be on a podcast, feel free to
Yep.
reach out. But so it's not exactly easy because this is not necessarily people's comfort zone, talking about
No.
themselves and being encouraging and humble bragging on yourself. But I want to encourage you, like, put yourself out there a little bit more,
Nobody's going to
toot
promote
your own
you
horn.
more than you're going to promote yourself. So,
Heck yeah. And don't feel like it's icky or shady or whatever,
no.
because at the end of the day, promotion, and we offer that free of there's no charge or hidden cost or anything to the podcasting. This is all we hope for is a like and subscribe. That way we can become a YouTube partner and make a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you could do that, we would love it. And if reselling is not for you, that's okay too. You're still probably going to gain something from life experience, because we talk more than just reselling a lot of times.
I think if you're a reselling content creator, you should do every podcast invite that comes your way, because it's
Absolutely.
going to expose you to an audience who may not already be there. I joke that if Kim Jong-un had a podcast and he hit me up, said, "Hey, will you do my podcast?" I'd be like,
whoa.
I'm not a big fan of him, but I guess I can work on my North Korea market a little bit, because they're probably going to be forced to listen to this. So, like,
yeah, we're killing it in South Korea, by the way, on
yeah.
Launchpad. Yeah,
we're not going to talk about whose podcast you did to promote over there then.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And I've actually, I've recorded an episode of this podcast that I didn't release, because you do have to be able to hold your end of a conversation. So if you're a guest on a podcast and someone asks you a question and you just like, if I asked you, do you want to be a full-time reseller? And you just said,
yes.
Yep. And then collaboration, it doesn't work out. And I'm like,
I've had those, I've had those guests on the podcast, and I have released those kinds of episodes. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to specifically name anybody.
No, and I'm not going to name who episode I didn't release. So,
and again, I think a lot of it sometimes is nerves. People are genuinely chatty, and specifically about things that they're passionate about. And if you could try, and that's an interviewing skill too. So I find part blaming that in myself if I can't get someone to open up. A lot of times I'll do an icebreaker in the beginning of the podcast. We'll talk about something that's completely out of left field. And I don't plan any of that stuff, by the way. That's just off the top of my dome. So I'm just coming up with stuff on the spot to try to like break things up and maybe be a little silly about it. Try to get things loose, and try to have a good conversation about all things. And a lot of times we'll even skirt around reselling. Like when we had Mike the Death Pile Picker on, we didn't talk much about reselling. We talked about his journey and like where he is now currently. You have to meet people where they are, Sean. And that's the thing. Right now he's struggling, right? He had some stuff happen with his grandma while she was down visiting, and he's stuck and can't unstick himself. And he talked about it freely. So I'm not saying anything out of pocket. So if you want to go back and watch Mike the Death Pile Picker episode, and he gets real raw and real about like what it is that's stopping him from reselling, and that's important too. That's the point, right? So just because we're resellers doesn't mean we stop being human, So I want to humanize reselling, because we get a lot of flack. We get a lot of flack for being resellers, and it's not okay. So
I used to have a podcast. This was back during COVID days, so it's been many years. I think I did like 30 some episodes, and I kind of just gave it up, because that time I didn't have any. It was just me. I had no interest in being a content creator or anything, so I was just recording podcasts and putting them up on YouTube and Spotify and stuff. And I interviewed people with like just unique jobs, just because I'm a unique, curious like a person. So like I had like a guy who was a Top Gun fighter pilot, and I had a guy who worked at Tiger King Zoo once, and just a bunch of random stuff. And I thought it would be fun to have like a OnlyFans girl on the podcast, just to kind of hear like, it's a unique job that not everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
But I was one on that podcast I couldn't release, because it was like talking to like a bag of rocks, trying to get her to talk or anything. And I'm like,
go figure.
This is your chance to promote like your business and everything. And
talk about a reseller, right?
Yeah. So
just kidding.
You do have to be able to carry a conversation to be a podcast guest, because
I think you do genuinely have to have a little bit of a gift for gab, maybe just a bit. And people are oftentimes, I just had this happen. I met someone at the post office. Her name is Sandy. Shout out Sandy if you're watching. She said I was nothing like myself in person as I am on the podcast. And I said, that makes sense, because I'm genuinely a reserved person. I'm not like very outgoing in public. I'm like very like, maybe that's because, when I'm out and about doing my thing, I'm like locked in on whatever I'm doing at the time. That's probably a lot of what it is. But once you get me chatting and stuff like that, I think that's when you start seeing like some of the podcast Bob as opposed to maybe, just out and about Bob. So once I find out you're a reseller, I'll chat you up. So
Yeah, I'm always down there. Well, most of us all work by ourselves. You're in a little
mhm.
different situation, but the
Yeah,
full,
right.
like, your wife works by herself most of the
A
day,
lot, quite a bit.
and I
Yeah.
work by myself a lot. So, like, when we have no coworkers, so when you get the chance to talk shop with somebody, you can't shut up, and it's easy to sit here. We've gone almost an hour, and
Yeah.
it's
I
easy.
think I think this can be a very lonely thing, if you were to let it be. And for some people, that's great and they love it. But if you're genuinely, and I think people are people, regardless if you think you might be or not, in general speak. So I think that you need people in your life and having like-minded people to talk to, which is nice that we have flip side to do that. And also recommend going to reseller meetups and reseller rallies.
Hmm.
If you've never been to one, I totally 100% recommend going and doing that. Break out of your comfort zone and do a thing. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And networking is always good.
I've
So
actually had several people reach out to me who were resellers, but not resell content creators, asking to be on the podcast. And I kind of have to be like usually it's a pretty safe bet when you have a resell content creator on the podcast because they're already putting themselves out there. So
yeah,
9 times out of 10, they're going to be an all right podcast guest because they already have the personality where they're willing to put themselves on camera anyways. But it
yeah.
can be a wild card if you get somebody who's,
It really can be. I just
yeah.
recently had that experience. Someone reached out on Facebook saying, how can I become a part of this thing?
Hmm.
And I went back and I looked at some of the content that they're on, and I was
Hmm.
just like, I'm not sure. You know, I had that first moment. That's the first time I've had that in 8 months where I'm just like,
Hmm.
should I look past that and like give them a chance? Like, I don't have to release it unless we do a
Hmm.
live,
You
and
do live
Launchpad
though,
is.
so it kind of puts you
Yeah,
in a.
Launchpad is live, so I have that to contend with too, and also my monetization status and all the other
Mhm.
things. So you have to take all
Yeah.
that into account. And I hope that people realize that, if I don't, and I'm usually pretty genuine and upfront. Like if
Hmm.
there's those
Yeah.
concerns, I'll
Yeah.
I'll tell a person like this is kind of what I'm thinking and why. And so I have yet to had that happen, but I haven't been monetized where I was worried so much about it yet.
Hmm.
So now I have that to contend with too. Like, so it's always in the back of my mind.
I was also honest with the person and said, I'm just Sean's finds. I'm not I'm not big enough to carry the podcast on my own, especially in its infancy. Like this is going to be
Oh
episode
yeah.
8. I need another person who has you don't have to have a giant social media following, but I need someone with a
It's
little
nice
bit
to
of
have
following that
some. Yeah.
I can tag them and maybe you know, we have overlap, but I'm sure we have followers who aren't overlapped where I can maybe, for your example, maybe attract some of your people who aren't
Mhm.
aware of me and vice versa. Like,
I love that, by the way.
yeah,
I love that type of
yeah,
collaboration and
yeah,
communication and effort. I think that's huge. And if we all did that for
yeah,
just like, if we all took an hour out of our day to just do that just a little bit, how great of
hmm,
a community could it be, right?
hmm.
Like,
But
it's just incredible.
maybe in episode 150, I can have regular John Smith on because he's a really good reseller and he would be would probably has a lot of knowledge. But right now,
Mhm.
I need someone who's not just regular old John Smith to help me move the needle
Yeah.
myself. So 'cause I know it's a little selfish, but
Yeah. I mean,
we
that's
all
how we
know.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that's how we started too when we
yeah,
did We Don't Give a Flip. For those that don't know, I did We Don't Give a Flip with West Virginia Panhandle Picker, Gulf Coast Picker, and my wife and all the wives. And it was a different kind of reselling
mhm,
podcast. It was just wild. So if you want to have a good laugh and look at some reselling content, check that one out. But yeah, I mean, so we kind of maybe use them as a lever, and that's
mhm,
okay. Because I
yeah,
was honest and straightforward with them. Like, and if you do that, and that's okay to do that, just
yeah,
don't be disingenuous, right?
yeah,
So we're all looking to kind of move the needle in 2026 and grow this thing. in 2027, I think the wheels are going to fall off for you, Sean. I think you're going to continue to grow, and I think you're going to continue to grow the podcast, and it's going to be something that's like I'm gonna just put it out. I'm gonna call it out by faith. It's gonna be like a Harry Tornado 2.0 over here.
Yeah.
Like I think it's gonna just blow the heck up because your content is not only is it good, but you can learn a lot from it, right? And if you're new to reselling, maybe you don't know about these types of things and what they go for, like tools. I always knew that tools were valuable. I was an aerospace propulsion specialist in the Air Force. So I was a jet engine mechanic. So for a lot of years, so I always knew tools were valuable, but not once in my mind did I say I'm going to go to eBay to get them.
Yeah.
So watching your content's been kind of like amazing for me. I'm like, maybe I should push that lever more often when I need that specialty tool.
I know you're a busy guy, but when you're at the thrift stores and you see that like maybe you should start another, like a little part-time eBay store where you put those little special items, like maybe not push it, but like have an outlet for them where they don't go in your feed with your plush.
I do have a closet right now full of things that are not toys and plush that I've been really considering, like starting an eBay 2.0 just to kind of test it. But I know what's going to happen. Like I know that it's going to take off, and then I'm not going to have the time to meet the requirements to get it out there.
So every Thursday I post an update of my eBay, Poshmark, Depop, Mercari sales. You've seen it. And if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you've seen it. I mean, there's always an eBay number 2 under my eBay. And that is an account that, like, you know, my wife's like, I'm not going to wear this shirt anymore. She throws it on there. Or she's putting Christmas decorations away and like, I'm done with this one. I'm going to throw that on there. And she got to where my wife's a full-time school teacher. So on like Sundays, she got to be like where she lives with me. So I'm like, instead of listing it all on Sunday, list and then spread them out through the week and then next weekend. Well, I have a connection where I've been getting shelf pull hats from a corporate employee. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep, I've been watching.
And it's an amazing deal, but you also know I'm a busy guy and I can't list all these hats.
Yeah, so get to everything, right? Yeah.
Her second eBay store has been more of her. I've just been bringing the hats home because I have a light box at home in the office too, and not just at the shop, just for emergencies, I guess.
Emergency listing, you never know.
She's been listing 3 hats a day because I can't get to the hats. But I can't quit buying them because they're such a good deal. So on Sunday, she'll draft 21 hats and then make 3 live every day. And it's gotten to the point now where I have a Nifty connected to my main Nifty AI, connected to my main eBay where I cross-list everything. And I'm like, going into Q4, all these hats are going to kill it on Poshmark and Depop. So now I'm paying for the $89.99 package for my big business account. She don't have 1,500 listings, so under 1,500 listings with all the tools, $69.99. So now we're paying $69.99 for the second Nifty account. So anyone that's on the fence about Nifty, I'm paying for 2 accounts. That's how much I love it. I'm not just propping it up because I get a little commission every time someone signs up. I'm paying for 2 accounts. And for the people who say, oh, my account's not big enough, my wife's a full-time teacher who lists 3 items a day. And she started Nifty on what's the day? The 22nd. She started on the 18th. And she has 4 sales on Poshmark and 4 sales on Depop of hats since the 18th of just her cross-listing the hats. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Be careful or she's going to be like, uh-oh, no more teacher. I'm just kidding.
I'm trying. I try to talk her into it all the time. Anytime she complains about something at school, I'm like, all those other teachers who have to put up with all those snot-nosed kids don't have an out. I don't want to hear your stuff because you have an out. Like, you see my numbers. She could join and we obviously wouldn't double the numbers, but they would go up where we could compensate a public school teacher salary.
There's something about teachers have a unique ability to be a forward-facing content creator. Maybe it's because it's baked into their nature because they stand in front of a classroom for so much time. So they're naturally performative in some way. So I think that teachers make great employees. Like we had a mathematician that she was a teacher for a long time. When I worked at Boeing, she came in for data analytics and she absolutely crushed it because she was so great at math, first of all, and then, presentations and stuff like that. People just loved her. So there's that. So there are so many things that teachers can do, and they're undervalued and under resource. I mean, it's really terrible that the state of that, but yeah, that's why they make such great resellers.
She's constantly like rated one of the highest teachers in her school district and all this stuff, and same old teacher pay, no matter if you're one of the top rated teachers in the state or barely passing by. And I'm like I said earlier in the podcast, I could work a 9-to-5 job and my paycheck's the same every week.
Some people need that though, right? Like if you're the type of person where you need if you need that type of consistency and reassurance that you're going to show up every day and it's just punch a clock for 20 years, there's nothing wrong with that. I want to just normalize, if resellers can be a lot of time like arrogant about, why are you doing this? Be your own person, blah, blah, blah. That guru energy. Like you don't have to be that when you're a reseller. You can do whatever you want to do as long as you have passion for it, because you'll never work a day in your life, right? That's how the old adage goes. If you're passionate, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's okay. And my wife did it for 17 years at Target. She loved every minute of it. And now she's a reseller and loves that and couldn't imagine going back to Target.
And then once you get that taste of being a reseller and stuff, it's the drive in you when you want to have a lazy, like, nope, I'm not going back there. I got to get up there and I'll list and work 7 days a week to not have to go back there. So
she locks in, she puts her headset on, right? She's listening to a podcast. She's listening to, one of her murder mystery, whatever things that she listens to or whatever. So, and then she just lock in and take 1,000 photographs in 2 hours and not even realize what she just did. So there are ways to move forward through the reselling journey. Not everybody's looks the same, and that's okay. I want to normalize resellers too, because a lot of us get a lot of flack, man, for reselling, and we're not any different than any other corporation when you really think about it. You don't walk into Walmart. Maybe some people do and say, you're a terrible corporation. You're getting your stuff from China and blah, blah, blah. And how dare you charge us whatever to do that? So, I mean, how are we any different? So normalize reselling.
Well, Bob, I want to thank you for doing this. Tell everyone where they can find you and your podcast again.
Yeah, so we do 2 podcasts, Launchpad Reseller Podcast, Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube, and also the Flip Side Reseller Podcast. That is Sundays, bi-weekly, 6 p.m. Central Time. And then also you can find me on Facebook, Rocket City Reseller there. And then on Instagram, Rocket City Reseller HSV, TikTok, Rocket City Reseller. And did I miss anything? We're just about everywhere.
Did you say your Whatnot one?
Oh, yeah. Whatnot is Rocket City Reseller, but who you really want to follow is my wife, Fiona's Finds, on Whatnot. Specifically, if you like little people, be sure to check her out. She is an amazing reseller, and I think you'll enjoy her much so more than you enjoy me. So we appreciate you guys tuning into this podcast. Make sure you are following Sean's Finds, okay? Liking, subscribing, and make sure you're watching his long form content, because we need to get him to 4,000 hours before the YouTube overlords change the requirements. So make sure you guys are listening to Sean.
And Kim Jong-un, if I'm serious, if you need a podcast guest and you hear this, reach on out. I'll pop on a live or a pre-recorded podcast at your convenience for you.
Oh, that's awesome. We appreciate you having me on, man. It's been real fun. I always enjoy podcasts and appreciate the time.
Same. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Fine Show, Sean's Fine Show, digging deep and making dough. From thrift store gold to eBay flips, he teach fire Thames and killer tips. Buyer, sellers, wheel and deal, real stories, keep it real, snack a bargain, flip it fast. Sean's Fine Show.